Hi, friends. We promise to cover the heavy, real stuff on this podcast, and this episode is the first of several in depth discussions around mental health. We may get into topics including depression, anxiety, substance abuse, self harm, suicidal ideation, and suicide. These subjects should not be taken lightly and, as such, may not be suitable for some listeners. As a reminder, Kelsey and Kayla are not licensed mental health professionals, and the content contained in this episode should not be considered medical advice of any kind. For links to mental health resources that may be helpful, go to undomesticatedpod.com and visit our resources page. If you or a loved one are struggling or in crisis, immediate help is available by calling or texting 988 from anywhere in the U.S. 24/7, 365. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for all your continued support of this outrageous endeavor by continuing to tune in for the past 6 weeks listening to us.
6 weeks? That's a long time.
It is.
I'm proud of us. You guys have really been so supportive, and we love the comments and stories that you share on our posts. So keep them coming. We also always need ideas for wine and wines. I mean, we don't have to look too far.
Right.
But we like hearing from you guys.
Yes. So we wrapped our Marriage Unfiltered series last week. Maybe at some point in the future we'll revisit marriage. But this week we are kicking off a series that is near and dear to both of our hearts.
Yes, very much so. For the next several weeks, we're going to be really honing in on mental health. And while we certainly acknowledge that men also struggle with mental health and need support and resources, a lot of this series will focus on specifically how it affects women and how we can protect it and nurture it.
I am really excited for us to dive into this one. And I know you are too. And to kick us off this week, of all things, I brought an Instagram post.
I love it.
And the reason is because as I was mindlessly scrolling my phone, I came across it and it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And we'll get into why, but here's what it says.
Okay.
It says, recently I discovered that I get massively triggered by my husband when he does things to prioritize his needs. Eats his breakfast calmly before feeding the kids who are not crying. Selfish. Goes to the gym for his health. So selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And after much discussion, I realized I am triggered because I am seeing an action of self-love and preservation that I never allowed myself to have.
Oh, man.
This wasn't modeled to me as being an option available to a girl, much less now as a mother. And by not doing this, I'm slowly losing myself. So moms, where do I begin filling up my cup, as they say?
That gave me chilies.
Yeah.
I got some chilies. That is so true. Because when we look at moms, or when we were growing up and looking at moms, it was like, if your mom doesn't sacrifice everything, she's not a good mom.
Right.
If she's not a little bit frumpy.
Can't take too good a care of yourself. Right.
Can't travel too much. Can't date too much. Like, they can't do that. They need to be at home with their children. And if they don't, or if they do something to prioritize their self-care, they're bad moms.
I agree. I thought it was really powerful. And for me in particular, it just kind of was a reality check.
Yeah.
Because Matt and I have had this discussion before, and I've totally caught myself getting just like livid.
Right.
At things he does that when you take a step back, you're like, he's literally just doing things to take care of himself. Like, to make sure, not in a selfish way, but because it makes him a better dad and a better husband.
Yep.
To go to the gym or get his workout in, or that he drinks his first cup of coffee before we start having any sort of serious discussion.
Right.
And it was growing up, and I think even to my grandmother's generation, that generation didn't work so much outside the home.
Right.
But even then, it was literally their job. If you were a stay-at-home mom, you were a 24/7 on the clock.
Yep.
Like, your husband went to work. He was providing for the family. And so when he came home, he deserved to just relax, and you continued to take care of everything.
Yep.
And it's shifting now. I think
Yeah.
we're seeing, which is important, but some of those underlying habits
Mhm.
and traditions or gender roles are still lingering. And so we feel guilty
Yeah.
when we're like, I need to get a workout in today. And
Right.
I am going to tell my husband, hey, after dinner, when we get the kids in bed, I'm going to go sit in the bathtub
Yeah.
for 30 minutes. I mean, it's okay.
Mhm. 100%.
Hmm.
First of all, what's the name of that song we love?
Labor by
Listen to
Paris
it.
Paloma.
Yeah. So every time I vacuum, I have to sing that song in my
Rage
head.
singing it.
Yes, I'm like, it's not an act of love if you
Make her.
make her. You make me do so much labor. Of course, no, this is the first time I've vacuumed all day.
Right.
Like, I'm not doing too much labor, let's be clear. But I was thinking about this today. Michael was sitting on the couch on his phone, decompressing, and I'm vacuuming and cleaning up and picking up around him. And he just remains unmovable. Like,
Hmm.
he is focused in, he's relaxing. When I'm relaxing and Michael's up doing something, I cannot continue
Cannot
to
sit still.
relax.
No.
I feel like my worth as a woman is lowered. I need to get up. I need to be the one doing this. And that's just not a thought that goes through Michael's head.
No.
They just are like, oh, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. Yeah, the kids are
Right.
yelling, but
Yeah, they'll be fine.
yeah, I need to do this for me.
Right.
Where I'm like, I'll have a cup of coffee in one hand, I'll hold Bodie in the
Mhm.
other. I will,
You're using your
feed
toes to pick up stuff out of the
Right.
floor.
Right.
And I think it's important to note here too, it is not your husband's fault
No.
that you feel that way. Now, that is a blanket statement.
Yes.
So take from it what you will and apply as needed
Right.
exceptions. But in general, you feeling that way, that
Yeah.
if your husband has to do something, you're not doing your job, those are just kind of those deep seated biases that we talked about in our competition episode.
Mm-hmm.
Men are just taught it's important for you to prioritize taking care of yourself
Yep.
from a young age. It's important for you to be able to relax because you go to work and you provide for your family and you need to unwind and prioritize your mental health so that you can do those things and do them well.
Right.
And it's almost like girls are, and again, not that anybody's sitting us down and lecturing us on it,
Right.
but through example, you're taught that my husband comes home and he sits down. I am supposed to beat
something.
myself into the ground.
Yep. Yeah.
To make sure he doesn't have to lift a finger to use Paris
Exactly.
Paloma's
And
word.
I stayed at home for about a year and a half before I started doing anything outside of staying
Mhm.
at home. And I started working with the Lacey Elkins Foundation, and then I started doing this podcast.
Mhm.
And I had to work through so many things that I was feeling like he hates me. He
Oh,
just
yeah.
wants me to be at home. I need to be doing better at home, but I'm so wrapped up in this, and I need to do this to make it successful, but there's also laundry.
Right.
That's not a thought when
Mhm.
Michael goes to work all day, comes home and does a 2-hour workout, has to go coach,
Right.
track.
Yeah, they're just things they have to get done. Those are their
Right. Exactly. And he doesn't resent me for those things. He's
No.
like, I understand you're doing what you love. Great, go do it. But in my mind,
Mhm.
I'm like, I
Yes.
need to be sacrificing more.
Mhm.
And it's like, what else do you have left to sacrifice?
Right. And nobody expects that of us
No.
except us.
Yep. And that's because that's what we've been taught to learn. And now we're having to deconstruct, undomesticate,
Mhm.
unlearn.
Right.
And that's why we're here today. In honor of us beginning our mental health series, let's do this.
Okay.
If you guys are listening to this episode and there's something that you do to prioritize your happiness and your sanity and your identity, let us know in the comments. We want to know, and maybe we can try it and let you guys know how we feel about it.
Yes. I love that idea. And I think it'll be really cool to see all of the women commenting
Yeah.
and sharing what works for them. And then that list can act as a resource for
Mhm.
other women who are coming to that post to see if they are in the midst of struggling to keep a grasp on who they are,
Yeah.
that they can use that list as a starting place.
Yeah.
And if you try something and it doesn't work, fine, move to the next item in the list and
Right.
see if that's something that just gives you a little bit of sense of clarity for you. One last thing before we jump in.
Yeah.
You guys have probably noticed Kelsey and I are sporting our Lacey Elkins Foundation shirts this week. And let me just tell you, this is the most comfortable sweatshirt I own now. It immediately became my favorite because I am all about things that are
So
soft
comfy. I
and
know.
comfy. And I'm wearing a medium and it's just slightly oversized, like the
Yeah.
perfect amount of oversized. So, Kelsey, tell our listeners why we're in our Lacey Elkins gear this week.
Absolutely. I would love to. So, the Lacey Elkins Foundation was founded by my dear friend Lacey's husband. His name's Patrick. He's Michael's first cousin. And we started this foundation in tribute to her memory and also to continue on the legacy that she left behind as a staunch advocate in the recovery community and in the mental health field. So, what we do is we create a space where anyone, insurance, no insurance, mansion, tent, can call us and say, I have a problem. I need help. Here's the substances I'm using, or here's the mental health diagnosis I'm struggling with, and I need treatment. And we're all volunteers. We call around to different rehab centers, psychiatric hospitals, anywhere that can take them for a residential treatment, whether they have insurance or not, and try and get them there. Our goal is from the first time they message us, they get into treatment immediately. Post treatment, they go to sober living. And we really just want them to create an environment where they can go into the real world and feel confident and secure in their sobriety. We also help them find a job, we help them get insurance. There's just so many awesome things that this foundation has done, and it's taken off really quickly. So we are in these today because these are being sold. 100% of the profits from these goes back to the foundation, immediately goes to either helping transport someone to treatment, helping pay for their treatment, helping pay for their sober living facility.
As your friend, I am so proud of you and the work you guys do at the Lacey Foundation to keep her memory alive and to support the mission that was so important to her. And it's just an important mission to be on because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that are really hurting and need that support. Plus, it fit really well with the theme of our new series.
Mm-hmm.
So, a link to the website will be available in our show notes as well as on the resources tab on our website.
Yep.
If you want to learn more about the Lacey Elkins Foundation, how you can help support the mission of the Lacey Elkins Foundation, or if you want to order your very own super amazing, soft, comfy sweatshirt, t shirt, other Lacey Elkins Foundation gear,
Mm-hmm.
check it out in our notes. And Kelsey, would you like to do the honors this week?
You know I would. In loving memory of my friend Lacey, and for all the women listening who are desperately seeking a way to salvage their sanity,
Let's go, girls.
I am so excited for this series, and in true Kayla fashion, we have some stats, we have some facts to share with you today from the experts, which
Of
do not include us.
course we do. Right. Exactly. So before we start digging in, we do want to be clear. Kelsey and I are not licensed mental health professionals. We are not and should not be considered to be experts in the field, but we are here to share the research we were able to find that we think will be helpful, as well as some of our own experiences struggling with mental health, because both of us do have our own struggles with some mental health. So
Yeah.
we're excited to dig into it.
So true. We want to provide resources and make suggestions that may be helpful for you, but if you are struggling with mental health, seriously, in any way, it's so important that you seek guidance from a licensed professional who can give you the tools that are best for your individual situation. And to add, if you're struggling with any thoughts of suicidal ideation, of harming yourself or harming others, dial 988 to the National Suicide Hotline, and they will be able to take it from there and get you the help and resources that you need.
Without further ado, can I nerd out for a minute?
Of course.
Okay, so I really dug into this and I found your typical sources. There's the National Institute for Mental Health, but then I came across this organization called Agenda Alliance.
Ooh.
And Kelsey, do you want to tell our listeners what the Agenda Alliance's mission is?
So, Agenda Alliance is an organization created specifically for the purpose of making a difference in the lives of women and girls who are at the sharpest ends of inequality. They advocate for women and girls with complex needs that are not being met by public services. They do this by conducting research, campaigning, and platforming the voices of women and girls, which is freaking awesome
Yes.
because it's so true. There are so many things specifically for women that are not being met by public resources, are not being government funded. So this is awesome. And we will include a link to their website in our show notes.
Yes. It was meant to be for us to find this website because, oh my gosh, when I started digging through the resources that are on their page, I'm really excited for some of our listeners to go look at their website because they have so many projects and campaigns
Ooh.
that they are driving
Yeah.
that are really amazing, and they're all about women and girls. But the thing that caught my eye was they took the time to aggregate some really incredible stats on women's health, women's mental health specifically.
Awesome.
So here's what the Agenda Alliance had to say about some stats on women's mental health. 1 in 5 women, that's 20% of women, experience a common mental disorder like anxiety or depression, compared with 1 in 8 men, which is 12%
Yeah.
of men. So significantly more women face common mental disorders. 53% of women who have mental health problems have experienced abuse of some kind. And 36% of women who experienced extensive physical and sexual violence in childhood and adulthood have attempted suicide, with 22% having self-harmed at some point.
36%.
36% have attempted suicide. We mentioned that ethnic minorities, impoverished women are a very specific group that require specialized resources. Yeah. And the research has shown they also experience mental health disorders in disproportionate volume. So, in stark comparison to white women, which is 16 to 21% who struggle with a common mental disorder, women from ethnic minorities are significantly more likely, including 29% in Black women, 24% in Asian women, and 29% in mixed race women who will face a common mental disorder. One other thing I would note is I pulled out some of the ones that seemed to be either the most relevant to introducing this subject or some that I thought would be the most eye-opening for our audience, but they had other stats on there. So for the sake of time, we had to scale the list back, but we'll link that in our show notes. So I would definitely encourage you to go look at some of the other stats. Yeah. Because it's really, one, it's interesting, and two, incredibly heartbreaking to see the differences in how common this is in women, and also how much more common it is in some different groups that you may not be a part of. And so as a result, you may not realize the struggles. So educate yourself always. You can't do better if you don't know better. So there's my soapbox for this week.
Amen.
75% of mental health issues are established before the age of 24. 75%.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about my diagnosis, it probably hit about, it definitely hit about 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another one that floored me. 1 in 7 young women aged 16 to 24. So haven't even scratched the surface of adulthood.
Yeah.
Have diagnosable PTSD. And we'll get into this more, but we have an expert on next week's episode that digs into trauma and what the difference is between something that happened that's just a little scary and
Mhm.
something that causes true PTSD and how difficult it is to get a diagnosis of PTSD.
Right.
So when we say 1 in 7 young women aged 16 to 24 have PTSD, we mean those young women have
Have
been to
suffered.
a licensed professional and have exhibited all of the diagnostic criteria necessary to receive that diagnosis, which is not something mental health professionals are just throwing around.
Right, especially for women.
Right. Another one that shocked me is that 72% of the individuals in suicide counseling with the NSPCC are girls. So I don't think it's any secret to anyone that mental health disorders and mental health struggles
Mhm.
are, they've always been around in youth, right? You're trying to figure out who you are,
Right.
how to be confident, how to own who you are, how do you fit in, but just exponentially worse
Yeah.
now, it
Yeah.
seems to be. I think back to our generation, and I'm going to sound like a super old lady here,
I'm
but
ready.
I really can't help but think social media is a big part of this
Yep.
because you and I came up at a time where social media was just being introduced,
Yep.
but your phone couldn't access it.
Mm-mm.
You had to log into the family computer
That's right.
to get on Facebook,
Yeah.
but you walked away from it.
Mhm.
There was a disengagement at some point.
Yeah.
It didn't follow you around everywhere. You didn't constantly have people in your pocket who were saying hateful things to you or
Right.
making fun of you or even just giving you the ability to constantly compare yourself to other people.
Yep.
It wasn't there. You knew what was in your four walls. So it's interesting. And
Yeah.
we probably should do a whole series
Yeah.
on
social media.
social media and the good, the bad, and the ugly
Yeah. And I
about
can
social
say
media.
too, on a positive note, we're seeing a lot more women and men come forward with their mental health
Hmm.
diagnoses, with information about it. With the internet being so easily accessible, there's more research available. There's more ways for you to get in touch
Hmm.
with professional help. We know more about the legislation regarding bullying and how to take care of that than we did when we were younger. There's a foundation in St. Louis that I did some work with called the Megan Meyer Foundation. And when we were young, I mean, this was when we were kids, she had been harassed online multiple times by what turned out to be her adult neighbor. Of course, she did not
I
know
remember
this.
this story.
Yeah. And she committed suicide at 13 years old. And so her mom created this foundation to help spread awareness about the impact that bullying can have on not just the victim, but the family, the friends, those that have to live without that person, and even the perpetrator,
Hmm.
the family of the perpetrator, the perpetrator years later when she's an adult and she realizes the damage that she
Hmm.
caused. It can go so far. So I will say that social media now does have the opportunity to be a
Hmm.
really positive thing in spreading awareness and feel less alone. So don't.
So mental health is obviously a concerning problem
Right.
for adult women, for young women, children, all ages. And it seems to continue to grow.
Yeah.
So now that we know the statistics, how do we know whether we are struggling or someone we know is struggling beyond just the normal day to day occasional blues? We all have a bad day, or we all go through tough time. A loved one dies, or you go through a breakup, or something like that.
Yep.
You struggle for a couple weeks, and then life is able to kind of go back to normal. But at what point does it become this is not normal fluctuations or grief
Mm-hmm.
or bad day blues?
Right.
This is something that I need to seek help for. And Kelsey, I know this is a hot button
I love it.
for you. So you did some digging into what some of the most common symptoms are for
Yes.
women, right?
I most certainly did. And I think some of these are really going to surprise people.
Hmm.
We collected these from the National Institute for Mental Health, and this is not an exhaustive list. persistent sadness or feelings of hopelessness. This isn't something that just comes and goes. This is an everyday thing where you wake
Mhm.
up and you go to sleep,
Can't shake it.
cannot shake it. Difficulty sleeping or sleeping too much. It happens very often. Extremely high and extremely low moods, aches, headaches, or digestive problems without a clear cause. A
Interesting.
lot of people laugh off IBS.
Mhm.
They call it, they're like, are you an IBS girly? Because girlies
Yeah.
always seem to have IBS. But you might be an IBS girly, but you also might be dealing with something.
Mhm.
So talk to your doctor about your IBS girlies.
Right.
Okay, you also could possibly have thoughts of death or suicide attempts. Those deep, dark, intrusive thoughts that come into your mind, whether it's death of yourself, death of others, whether it's this panic that something horrible is going to happen to you, those thoughts in your head that you know immediately are not normal thoughts,
Mhm.
but that somehow seem to take over your thought process.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that one up because I think it's important to note this is not just I am considering committing suicide.
Right.
There's also, and you've touched on suicidal ideation
Yep.
before, even if you are in a state where it's something that invades your thoughts, it's something you almost fantasize
Yeah.
about, is
Yeah.
the best way I know how to put it. That's called suicidal ideation. Even if you catch yourself doing it and you're like, I would never.
Right.
I would never follow through with it. I just
Mhm.
think about it.
Yep.
That is not a normal, healthy thought process.
No.
There may be other things going on that you need to work through. Even if you feel like you have it under control, even if you feel like you know in your heart you would never follow through with that,
Right.
there are things that can escalate that. And it's not healthy. It's not good for you to
Yep.
feel that way and to be thinking about those things. That was one that I wanted to expand on. And really, it kind of surprised me to see the aches and headaches and digestive problems, because I think a lot of times when we think about mental health disorders,
Yeah.
we think of, oh, they're sad all the time.
Right.
Oh, they can't sleep, or oh, all they do is sleep. They sleep till
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the afternoon. They get up and they eat and they go right back to bed. Or
Mhm.
the mood swings, or even the suicidal ideations or suicide
Right.
attempts. Those are things that people think about, or the stereotypical
Yep.
mental health struggles. But the physical manifestations, if you will, of
Right.
mental health are very real, and they may be signaling something else that's going on. So maybe you don't have trouble eating, or maybe you don't see extreme swings from high to low
Right.
moods, but you are kind of waking up in a dark place every day
Mhm.
and you can't seem to shake it. And man, you just have a headache every day.
Right. Yeah, it's a huge symptom of anxiety. Pitch Perfect comes to mind
Mhm.
when she's very nervous on stage and she vomits everywhere.
Mhm.
That's a classic symptom of
Mhm.
anxiety and your anxiety manifesting itself through your body.
Mhm.
Another thing that I want to touch on about the intrusive thoughts, you'll see on social media that a lot of people make jokes about it.
Mhm.
I'm letting my intrusive thoughts
Oh
win,
yeah,
and
my
that's
intrusive
fine.
thoughts won on that one.
Yeah, sometimes those things are really funny.
Mhm.
I can tell you this, when I was having those intrusive thoughts, and what my intrusive thoughts looked like were, I just everybody around me would be better off without me. What am I doing with my life? I'm not
Mhm.
doing anything productive. Or I can't imagine showing up after I've just humiliated myself in
Mhm.
front of all these people. Everyone knows I'm sick. Those intrusive thoughts are like that. And honestly, by themselves, they are dangerous.
Mhm.
But when you pair them with the other symptoms, such as feelings of hopelessness, lack of sleep, which
Mhm.
is a huge one, your circumstances around you, whether you have a job, whether you're at home,
Mhm.
the ability to continue to think on those things and not have a bit of distraction, when you pile all of those different symptoms with your intrusive thoughts, it goes from dangerous to incredibly dangerous to life threatening.
Mhm.
So, the person that you are when you're saying, I would never,
Right.
like, yeah, I have those little thoughts, but I would never. is not the same person as someone who hasn't slept in 8 hours, who is constantly surrounding themselves with those thoughts. Very different people, and that person that you don't recognize right now could be the person that causes severe damage. So
Yes.
please seek help when you have those intrusive thoughts. Don't let it pile up.
Agreed. And if you know someone who is struggling with those things, if they have confided in you, take them seriously.
Yeah.
And you can't force somebody to go to therapy. You can't force someone to talk to their doctor. But what you can do is make sure after you've been a listening ear that every time you leave that conversation, you're saying, I really wish you would go see your doctor or go see your therapist. I'd be happy to go with you.
Right.
If you don't want to.
But also, aside from them coming to tell you there's something wrong, pay attention to the little things.
Right.
My sister-in-law is really funny about this. When I'm sad about something, I dip out for a minute.
Mhm.
I won't respond for a couple days. I have a little slumber, an all-day slumber, and she'll text me and go, "You've been missing for 2 days.
Right.
What's going on?"
Mhm.
She's noticing those little cues that I give when you know someone really comfortably.
Right.
So pay attention to those as well.
Yes.
We could get into an entire episode, and we will. We fully plan on doing an entire episode on postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, postpartum rage, because those are also thoughts that are outside of our norm that come during this postpartum time that we can't prepare for and we don't know what's going on. So I don't want my PPD, PPA, PPR girlies that I'm in cahoots with, because I've had them all.
Yes.
To feel left out in this episode. This is a very general episode for us to prepare you guys for the weeks to come.
So now we've gotten into some stats. We know some of the things to look for. But if you know me and Kelsey and you followed us for these 6 episodes, we're not just going to leave you with, here's what the stats are and here's what to look for. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Yeah.
There are some things we can do about it.
Absolutely,
to help protect our mental health, not the least of which is therapy. And I feel like we have driven that point home over the course of this conversation, and we probably will every episode. So, Kelsey, what are some of the things we can do about it?
I am so glad you asked. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, here are some of the most effective self-care tips. We love a good bit of self-care.
Yes, we do.
So, number 1, regular exercise, 30 minutes a day, has been proven to boost your mood and improve your overall health as much as we don't want to do it. Make sleep a priority, which I have to get better at.
Yes, you do.
Practice gratitude.
That's
a good one. Set goals and priorities. Practice saying no to new tasks when you're already overwhelmed. Woo! How do we feel about that one?
Right. Yeah, that was one I think we should expand on.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of like some of our tips on our marriage episode. Yes, it's easy to read that off a page and be like, well, yeah, just say no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes practice. So, recovering people pleaser. We've talked about this. So, I am potentially the world's worst at saying no when I am already overwhelmed, if it's someone that I'm afraid of disappointing.
Yes.
Especially. So I had a boss at a prior job who told me he knew I wanted to continue to climb the ladder.
Yep.
And we met once a week to talk through, leadership development, what was going on with the team I was leading. And it got to the point that I was like, I just don't know what else to do. I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I'm drowning. And I know I need to take the time to train my people so I can start delegating some of this.
Yep.
But I don't feel like I can right now because we're all trying to keep up. And he said, Kayla, one of the most important skill sets if you are going to continue to rise the ranks is the ability to say no. And I was like,
Yeah.
So I had to start practicing it. And he did a really good job of challenging me every so often.
Yeah.
To say, is this something you could say no to?
Yep.
And so get an accountability partner.
Yep.
Find your friend, find a parent or your spouse or whoever it is that wouldn't be afraid to say, Kelsey, is this something you could say no to?
Right. Right.
And that you would go,
Yeah.
yeah, I could say no.
Yeah.
And then to challenge you, say no. I'll support you. You can blame it on me if you want to.
Yep.
Say no.
Yep. It's too much for you right now.
Yes.
Decide what must get done now and what can wait, and celebrate what you've accomplished at the end of the day.
I love that.
Don't constantly think about, I should have done this.
Right.
Oh, I still need to switch over the laundry. This is all I've done today. That is good enough.
Right. And that applies to a lot of things.
Goes back to the practice gratitude portion.
Yes.
We covered. All right. Last but not least, stay connected. Reach out to friends or family members who provide emotional support and practical help. Which
love that. Exercise, sleep, gratitude, saying no, setting priorities, and staying connected with your support system. So, Kelsey, do you know what time it is now?
Oh, Kayla, you know I do. It's 1 and 1, baby. Play that jingle. All right, so you might have noticed that every movement I make is a little bit smaller, a little bit more intense. I'm wincing just a little bit. And that is because Kayla and I started the 75 Hard Challenge today, which is both tragic and amazing.
But mostly tragic. Because, one, we are struggle bussing it today. Today was day 1, so we're like going to the bathroom every 5 minutes because we've had to drink a gallon of water.
Yep.
We can barely move because we've had to do 2 workouts today. And it also means for the next 75 days, there will be no wine in our wine and wine or other adult beverages because one of the rules is no alcohol for the 75 days. So, but
I think we're going to bring you guys fun mocktails. Yeah. If you guys have any ideas or mocktails, send it our way. We'll
do some research. So it does mean that over the next 75 days, we get a chance to review some fun non-alcoholic ones.
That's right.
So mocktails will be a really fun way to do that.
And this week, I brought from my fridge downstairs, Topo Chico. Mine is lime with mint extract.
And mine is tangerine with ginger extract. And they are flavored sparkling water with real fruit juice. So it's not artificially flavored.
Love that. I'm going to give mine a 5 out of 10.
You're not a sparkling water girl.
I don't like
not a sparkling water girly.
and I don't like water. So I am getting hit hard today, but I will drink it.
So, well, we've discussed before, I am a sparkling water girly.
You love it.
And I'm also a flavored sparkling water girly. Except my clear American that I usually get is like very heavily artificially flavored and sweetened.
Okay, but that is good.
It is good.
That was really good.
But I actually kind of like this. I'm not usually a big ginger fan. It's kind of a sharp taste to me and usually something that I'm like, oh, I can taste it.
Yeah.
Like even when I was pregnant, you know, they say the ginger candies and stuff help. I could not do it. I had to do other things.
Yeah.
But I'd give it a solid 7.
Michael would give these a 10 out of 10. These are his favorite. That's why I brought them from my fridge because my fridge is literally full of them and I need to get rid of them. So.
And for those of you like me who know Topo Chico from their margaritas and seltzers, that is not what this is. No. This is they are just flavored sparkling water. They do have a line of seltzers and margaritas though, and I can tell you those are pretty good.
Yeah.
But
they are.
All right, Kelsey, what is really grinding your gears this week?
Well, this is a new wine for me because I don't enjoy walking outside. I don't enjoy walking.
And now you're having to do 1 workout a day outside.
Right. So part of the 75 hard is you have to do an outside workout, which to my credit, I did go and do that. I walked for 45 minutes outside with my son in the stroller and I did like it. But my wine it's not necessarily a wine. It's more of just like a weird thing that I haven't gotten down. I passed multiple people today as I'm walking, and there's like a perfect time to wave at the person walking across from you. If you wave too early, then you guys are just staring at each other.
For like what feels like an eternity. Okay, yeah.
If you're late, it's just like awkward because then that person's waving at you and you weren't waving at them, and that's rude.
Right. And then did they even see you wave back?
And if you're right on time and you're both waving at each other, there's this weird moment where it's like, do I stop?
Yeah. Am I supposed to say something to you now?
Beyond the wave. So I am obviously not a seasoned walker runner, but I feel like there's a community there and I'm just not in it yet.
Yeah, there kind of is. Most people will say like, "Hey, how's it going?" or something like that as they're running. But I will say that's like people you see every day. So like as you get into this, if it's somebody you see the same like two or three people, and it's still not like a stop and talk.
Great.
So there's good news.
Anyway,
right.
It's an awkward situation. I want to be socially appropriate. So, Kayla, tell me what is getting your panties in a wad, and I can say that because I know you wear panties.
I do.
All right.
Wear undergarments. Bloomers, if you will.
Oh, my.
This one's a very specific one.
Okay.
And it's because I am currently in the midst, like I am in the throes of battle.
Okay.
Growing my hair out.
Yes, you are.
So I love my haircut in a pixie cut.
Yeah, me too.
The super short look, I love. It's like this edgy boss babe kind of vibe.
Yeah. And you look so, like it fits your face shape and your structure and also like the vibe that you give off so very well.
Yeah, it's kind of this edgy, like I'm not afraid to tell it like it is kind of vibe.
Yep.
And the problem is I like a pixie cut. I also like my hair past shoulder length.
Yeah.
I like none of the lengths in between.
Yeah.
So once I'm sick of my pixie cut, and anyone who's known me for any length of time, you've known me through like 3 or 4.
Yep.
Pixie cuts now. Every 4 or 5 years, I'm like, chop it off. Yep. I'm sick of messing with it. I'm sick of dealing with it. It doesn't look like it, but I do have a lot of hair.
It's very thick.
And when it's long, at some point it gets to the point that all that ends up happening is it gets thrown up in a bun. Just cut it off. And when I cut it off, I cut it all off.
Yeah, you do.
We go straight from down to my elbows to pixie.
Yep.
In one appointment. And thank God for Hannah Moore, because she does at least ask me a few follow-up questions to make sure I'm not like in the midst of a crisis before she lets me do that, which used to be my thing. Yeah. If everything else was out of control,
cut my hair.
Cut my hair off.
Me too. I've had one too many.
Or try to dye it blonde, which is a terrible decision for as dark as my hair is. It's just not a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. It's in a really frustrating length right now. Like my bangs haven't really caught up with everything else. And so they kind of look disconnected. So that's why this situation is going on. On the positive side, it looks healthier now than it has in a very long time. I stopped dyeing it entirely.
Yeah.
Until my gray gets bad enough that I feel like I need to put color back on it. So we're trying out this whole natural thing.
Yeah. I think that your hair is adorable. I think that you are going through hair dysmorphia.
I might be. I could be.
Because every time I look at a picture, I'm like, that's such cute hair. And you're like, I hate my hair.
I hate my hair. I do. Every morning I get up, and I should probably change like my daily affirmations or something, because I swear right now my daily affirmation is my hair sucks. I get up, I go in the bathroom, I brush my hair, I look in the mirror and go, what am I going to do with it today? My hair sucks.
Yeah. Okay. I get that.
So maybe I should just change my internal dialogue around it until it gets to the stage that I want it to be.
Yeah. I have healthy hair.
Mm-hmm.
I have natural hair. Mm-hmm. Got a really good butt. I've got I've got a good butt.
We were talking about hair and somehow my ass got brought in.
I was trying to think about the best physical
Other
characteristics you
positives?
have. And
Okay.
there's no debating
It just kind of threw me for a
that
minute
she
because
is blessed in the gluteus maximus department.
there's been a lot of years of squats and other things.
It's true.
But,
So
oh my
if you
God.
can't focus on your hair, just look in the mirror and say,
I've got a dump truck.
I got a dump truck.
I do not. I mean, it's back there, but it's not what I would call a dump truck.
Okay, we won't do a side-by-side comparison, but it would be horrendously embarrassing for me. It would be like a muffin and a pancake.
Did you just say a muffin and a
Because, the top of a muffin is
That's true. It does
round. Like a round
Look at you, Andy Caton, with your analogy.
That's right. I'm learning from the best.
Right.
All right.
Oh, man.
That was fun. It was a good palate cleanser because it was heavy there for a sec.
It was.
And
mental health can get
necessarily
heavy. Yes. Yes, it can get heavy. We take it very seriously.
Yes.
We hope all of you take it very seriously. If you haven't, up to this point, it's a good time to start.
Yeah. As we mentioned before, this is just the first episode in our series on mental health, and we obviously are very excited to have our first expert guest next week.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's super exciting. You all are going to absolutely love her. Our expert guest is Krista Dancy, and we sat down to chat with Krista about all things trauma. What is it? What is it not? And what can we do about it?
Yeah. So she is a licensed holistic trauma therapist. She specializes in birth trauma. She's the CEO of Dancy Perinatal Counseling. So she offers counseling for those who have experienced birth trauma, and she provides education to providers, so medical providers that have also experienced trauma. So obviously, we're very excited to have her on and look forward to her insight. And another reason I'm super excited to have her on because she is my cousin. Yes. So she's a very special guest to me. Prior to this episode, follow her on Instagram or TikTok. It's at Learn About Trauma. She's got really good little, 15-second, 30-second nuggets about trauma that you normally wouldn't think about.
Yes. And you guys are not going to want to miss this episode. Honestly, Kelsey and I have already had conversations about needing to have her back on to dig into things like birth trauma, as well as just maternal mental health in general.
Yeah.
Because there was so much knowledge she had to offer that trying to pare it down into focusing just on trauma in a general sense was really hard to do.
Yeah.
So you can probably expect to see her back if she wasn't mortified and just like totally scared away by how ridiculous we are. But we had a lot of fun talking to her. Be sure to tune in next week, Wednesday, May 1st, to hear all of Krista's incredible insights. And thank you, as always, for joining us this week to kick off a new series.
You guys are amazing. So go ahead, give us a like, give us a share, leave us a review if you can, and tell your friends about us. We love to see our friends sharing our posts and really just gaining more friends from it. Let's continue to create a supportive network, and we will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.